We're going to talk about the 3 ways that a law firm will evaluate an applicant and decide if they're going to hire them or not. A law firm wants to know if you can do the job, whether or not you want the job, and whether or not you'll commit to the job. They have to convince the employer to all 3 questions. Can you do the job? Do you want the job? And will you commit to the job? Doing a job means that you're able to fit in when you get to the employer, that you're willing to play by the rules, that you have the background to do the work, and you're willing to do everything the job requires. Because lots of people will have the skills for any job that you're applying for, but the thing that the employer is most concerned about is really whether or not you're relatable and well-liked by the people that you're interviewing and that are hiring you. Because people want someone that they like to work with, and they want you to bring positive energy. When 2 people get along, when a group of people gets along, a firm functions much better than if there's a lot of people kind of butting heads and not getting along and different types of personalities. And another big thing that the law firm cares about is how you make them feel and whether or not they're comfortable with you. So if you make the employer not feel good about themselves, or you are make them at least bit uncomfortable, then they're not going to want to hire you. So one example would be, I interviewed this guy not too long ago that had graduated like in the top 5% of his class from UCLA Law School, and I interviewed him for a position as a new attorney with our company. And when I shook his hand, it was very clammy. He had absolutely no enthusiasm. It was very difficult to get him to talk and answer questions. And so that's an example of someone that's not making the interviewer feel good. And that's why, despite these great grades and so forth, he didn't have a job. In most cases, once you get in the door and the law firm's interviewing you, your personality compared to the other applicants is more important than your education and experience. I mean, law firms want to work with people that they feel like they could even be friends with outside of the office. Each employer is going to have different rules and different games. I mean, some employers may require you to bill incredible hours. So just because you can technically do the job, doing the job may require you to work very, very hard. And if that's the kind of employer you're going to work with, then they're going to look for any sign whatsoever that you're not going to be passionate about the work and commit to it, so they can disqualify you. All employers are really asking, can you be controlled? Will you follow the leaders of the firm and other people there? And will you do what is required? And if there's any sense of entitlement that comes across when they're interviewing you, it's going to be difficult for you to get the job, because it's going to communicate to them that you're not willing to keep your head down and work hard. The qualification requirements differ between law firms because law firms are looking at your background to see whether or not you have the requisite skills to work there, meaning the education, experience, and so forth. And a big law firm may not consider you if you didn't go to a certain school or you didn't do as well as they expect you to in a certain school. And a small law firm might. So what it's going to take in order to do the job at a large law firm or be considered someone that could do the job is going to be different between different types of law firms. But if you do not meet the qualifications for a certain firm, there's really nothing you can do that's going to get them to hire you. You're not going to get in the door. Meaning, if you don't have the type of grades, or if you're a partner, you don't have the level of business, if you don't have the right type of experience, there's very little you can do. Some jobs have requirements built into them that you might not like. For example, a lot of law firms may require their attorneys to work most weekends, or they may require them to do a lot of travel. Sometimes this means you're going to be expected to work with a partner that has a reputation for being very difficult. So whatever the job requires of you, you really need to make sure you do it. Sometimes people will apply for jobs that they don't actually want, and the signs are usually on the resume and pretty evident on the resume. So for example, if someone doesn't really want to practice law, you may see them taking a lot of time off. You may see them going in-house. You may see them taking jobs with the government. There may be a lot of moves on their resume. And those type of people, while they may want to practice law, they may not want to do it inside of a law firm. So that's sort of the big caveat there. So once a law firm sees someone taking a lot of time off or a lot of moves and so forth, they're typically not going to be as interested in them. The main things that demonstrate someone really wants to do the job would be, I would think one of the first things is an interest and commitment to the subject matter and the work they're doing. So an example would be an attorney who generates a lot of business, probably has a lot of interest in the subject matter. Attorneys that do a lot of writing and speaking, what they're practicing in the practice area. Someone that just goes into an interview very enthusiastic and talks about the work they do. That shows the employer that they really want the job. I mean, an employer knows whether someone's likely to stick around for the long term based on a bunch of different things that they're going to kind of evaluate. So one of the types of candidates that they look at a lot are people that want to relocate to a different city. And if the person's not from that city and doesn't have any major contacts there, then the employer is very likely to kind of look at them suspiciously and feel like the person's just kind of going to take the first job they can get and then may not stick around with that job. A lot of times people will have all sorts of activities on their resume that don't really have anything to do with practicing law and kind of show they may not be sticking around very long. So they may have a whole section dedicated to some outside interest, or they may have all sorts of jobs that have nothing to do with what they're doing, or had all sorts of jobs in the past that have nothing to do with what they're doing. That's another thing that kind of alarms employers, or outside interests that seem to take precedence over practicing law. Most of the time, one of the things that shows that a person's not likely to stick around long term is just a lot of movement on their resume. So they may move frequently between firms every couple of years. I know of an attorney in his late 40s that's worked in over 20 law firms, and big ones. But I mean, that's a sign that, if you're the next person to hire that person, that the person is probably not going to stay. People who want to switch practice areas a lot of times are people that may be trying something else. People that want to move from a large firm to a small law firm may just not want to practice law, but maybe trying something else. People that have gone in-house a lot of times are a risk because they're probably not likely to like a law firm again after going in-house. People that have taken extended time off a lot of times won't stay long because it shows kind of a lack of continuity and commitment. And people who can make more money with a different employer a lot of times don't stick around, because what happens is if a candidate takes a job that pays a lot less than a previous job, they'll be kind of always thinking they could get paid more money for the same work, and a lot of times will leave. These are just a few of the signs, but if you're interested in reading more about this, I would go to the article on BCG.